Who's going first, Jean or you? Is Jean first? She's first. Okay, that's what I thought. Good afternoon. Anybody bring any snowballs with you? Not yet. It's great to see all of you this afternoon. This is a good crowd. Somebody said, Goldie said, I wonder if anybody's going to come with all this cold weather we have. So here you are. Here we are. We have 3 absolutely delightful stories today. We have 4 storytellers. 2 people are going to tell one of our stories, so Ed and Goldie later on, but it's really, really good. We have had so much fun doing these stories. I hope you've enjoyed these. We are not going to do it in February. We had a hard time getting storytellers for today. After we had 2 and we finally got a 3rd one, and so we're going to give it a rest in February, and we're going to kind of see whether or not you come forth and say you have one to tell. So if you have a story to tell and you want to tell it, let us know and we'll start it again at some point, but we need to hear that from you, okay? Agreed? Yeah. Okay, all right. We're going to wait a minute until everybody gets in and gets settled. Jean Edwards is our first storyteller today. She has a good one. Jean lives in East Apartments. How long have you been here, Jean? 11 years, and she was with her husband, Jim, until he died a year ago? A year and a half ago? Yeah. So, but she's got a funny one for us today.
You thank me now, you may not afterwards.
Wait.
Okay, it's not on, is it?
Yeah, it's on. Just got to get close to it. Have to get right up in
Okay. It was August 1983 that my good friend Rowena Southern and I went to Hamilton, New Zealand with the Raleigh Friendship Force. To be selected to go with this group, you first had to apply, then you made an appointment, you filled out applications, you were interviewed extensively, and you brought with you a paragraph of why you would like to go to a foreign country to live with a family there for 1 week. The Raleigh Friendship Force was selecting individuals who would represent the United States and, of course, North Carolina. Rowena was 65 at the time, and she did not believe that she would be selected because of her age. But believe you me, she was. And she was often our spokesman for us when we were with all the groups that we were with in New Zealand. She has always had the gift of gab. She can get up and talk freely at any time, anywhere, and you'll be glad that she was representing you. Rowena is 96 now, and she still has that talent. After spending 24 hours in the air, in the flight to New Zealand, we both knew that we did not want to just spend 1 week with friends there. We wanted to go to the South Island of New Zealand, and we wanted to see as much of Australia as we could. Fortunately for us, my husband, Jim, was a Raleigh dentist, and he had a couple from Australia as patients. And it was this very nice lady that routed our whole Australian trip for us by telephone. I never met her. I only talked to her several times on the telephone, and she told us where to go and what to do. Then our travel agent, our Raleigh travel agent, she made all the reservations for us there. I'm sure that I'm looking around and I see probably many of you who have had this experience. We would be in a hotel. The travel agent would come and take us to the airport. He would put us on our plane, and when we got to our destination, another travel agent would take us from the airport, meet us at the airport, take us to our hotel, take us to our room, and give us our full itinerary while we were in that area. And this happened over and over again from place to place. And it worked like a charm. Our only responsibility was to be on time, which we were. What I'm wondering is how many tourists attempt to see Sydney, Australia in one day. Rowena and I did, and it was a full day. We started that morning with a city bus tour of Sydney. We were taken from that down to the harbor, where we were put on Captain Cook's cruise of the harbor, which we did. Beautiful it was. And we had lunch included. After lunch, we had free time, a little bit, not much. But we knew that we were going to, Sydney was the largest city we would be in, and we had more time than we would probably have anywhere else. So shopping we did. And when we came out a short while later, we had bags full of stuffed koalas to take to Rowena's many, many grandchildren. From there, we walked down to the Sydney Opera House. Now, you know, whenever you see Australia, you always see a picture of the Sydney Opera House. And it was a wonderful tour. All of it was just exquisite, fantastic, as my grandchild would say, awesome. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, our last destination of the day found us walking to the dock to catch the ferry over to the Sydney Zoo to see the live koalas. After all, we had bags full of the stuffed ones. We wanted to see the live macaws. So we took that ferry, and when we got on the other side, we saw the huge zoo in front of us up the hill, and it had a large, tall wall surrounding the whole zoo. So we started at the ferry and walked up that long hill all the way to the entrance, which was at the very top of that hill. We got to the entrance, and guess what? It was closing for the day. They had closed the gates. They were closing the gates. The admittance, it was no more admittance. And with tears in our eyes, we begged that gatekeeper to please let us in. We only wanted to go to see the koalas, and we would be in Melbourne the next day if we didn't get to see them that day. It would be only chance in a lifetime that we would get to see them. So he finally said yes. He took our entrance fees, pointed us to a Jeep, told the Jeep driver to take us to the koalas, and he did, and dropped us there. We were thrilled. All the koalas were on one side in a fenced-in area, and we visited with them and watched them and probably tried to talk baby talk to them. We even went across to see the ugly wombats. They are ugly animals, but they are native Australians. We had already seen the kangaroos. We didn't need to see those again, but we just having a wonderful time walking around to all the cages and fenced-in areas looking at the animals until Rowena suddenly realized that we were the only 2 people in the zoo. She panicked, and she said, "We've got to get out of here." And she started walking very fast. Well, I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted to see all the animals I could see, so I just casually trailed behind her and looked at all the animals I was passing. What was so fascinating to me was that all the birds, when the zoo closes for the day, all the big birds, all the birds come out, and the zoo is theirs at night. Have you ever heard free as a bird? They were. And Rowena didn't like those tall ones, those big ones. She thought, I don't know whether she thought they might bite her or what, but she hurried on by and yelling at them. And so I just was having a great time until I realized it was getting dark. And more than that, I knew that we had to be on that last ferry that went to Sydney for the night. We had to be on it. We didn't know where we were lost. I quickly caught up with her, and we ran down that hill. We didn't know whether to run up the hill for the exits or run down the hill, but we decided we would go in the direction of the ferry anyway, though we were on the inside the wall. So we ran down, and finally we found an exit gate. It was locked. Now, panic is not a very good word for what we were. I would call us hysterical. We didn't know what to do. We just decided to keep running down the hill. Nothing else we could do. And finally, we saw a man over at the distance coming out of one of the big animal buildings. He was a worker because he had a pail in his hand. And he was at least the length of a football field away. That's 300 feet. And it could have been 600 feet because he looked a little bit like a midget. But we started running and yelling toward him. And we ran and yelled and yelled and ran and ran and yelled until finally he heard us and saw us. We were afraid that he would disappear before we got there. But he saw us and he directed us to the only exit that was open. And he was about to lock it. From there to jumping on that last ferry of the day to go back to Sydney was our last race of the day. It was not until we were on the flight to Melbourne the next day that we asked ourselves this question: what if? What if? So now I have a question to ask you. Have you ever spent the night in a zoo? Rowena and I almost did.
We've heard a couple of stories from Joe Hale, but today we're going to hear one from Mary Alice, and it's a travel story too. Another good one. Come on up, Mary Alice.
You might have to help me with this microphone.
Okay. Get it
Position
just right.
right.
Just get your mouth right at it.
Right here?
Yeah, that's good. Just speak up.
In the mid-'80s, we had a business trip to Colorado Springs. We wanted to plan an interesting trip around the area of our destination after the meeting was over. We had never driven through the Rockies, so we started looking at maps and working on an add-on itinerary. Somewhere along the line, we decided that a train trip would be the way to go, would be the solution. We could ride through the mountains, we could both enjoy the scenery, and not have to worry about where to stop to eat or to sleep. We learned that the California Zephyr from Chicago to San Francisco stopped in Denver and connected in Sacramento with Coast Starlight, which would take us to Seattle. Perfect. This would be a 36-hour ride. We would board the train in Denver one morning and arrive in Seattle the next night at about 8 o'clock. Joe said there was just one problem. He did not want to be on a train for that long a time without his own private bathroom, a toilet and shower. I did the research and told him it's going to be very expensive, quite a bit more money. He did not care. He did not want to go down the hall corridor to the bathroom, and he wanted to be able to take a shower in his own shower. And it did make a certain amount of sense because we were going to be on the train for 2 days and 1 night. So we booked a deluxe bedroom with private bath. The meeting ended and we drove to Denver to board the train. We were shown to our quarters. There was a sofa with a high back that would convert to bunk beds, a lavatory, a small table with 2 chrome chairs, a large picture window. Oh, and over here was the private bath. It was actually a combination toilet and shower. There was one lever that operated the water. If you pushed it down, the toilet flushed. If you pulled it up, the shower showered. When you pushed it down, it made sort of a plunk sound, and when you pulled it up, kind of a clunk sound, but you did not dare to forget which way to push it. All aboard, we were on our way. We settled down to watch the world go by in the 2 chrome chairs, almost like the breakfast room chairs that you used to have growing up. Of course, we could have sat on the sofa, but it was very straight and hard, and it was going backwards. And we weren't close enough to the window to really appreciate the view. So of course, one of the chrome chairs did too, but we took turns going backwards, seeing where we had been. The view is spectacular. Up the front range of the Rockies, through 29 tunnels, one of which was over 6 miles long, up to 9,000 feet, traveling along the Colorado River Valley with its strange red rock formation, canyons, just you can't imagine. It was wonderful. Soon it was lunchtime and we made our way through to the dining car. On the way, we passed through the cars where the other people were sitting, those that did not have a deluxe bedroom and private bath. They were faring pretty well. They had large, wide seats that reclined, cup holders. They were dozing, reading, socializing, sipping drinks, enjoying the view, and looking quite satisfied. After a delicious meal with an interesting couple from Oklahoma who lived in an underground sod house, we were back to our chrome chairs for the afternoon. More scenery in the afternoon along the Colorado River for several hours. Grand Mesa, the largest blacktop mountain in the world, in the Utah desert. Dinner time, back through the cars with the recliners and those 4 people. More interesting conversation with fellow travelers. When we returned to our deluxe bedroom with private bath, the porter had made up the bunk beds. I took a shower and got dressed for bed. I noticed that Joe was in his pajamas brushing his teeth. I said, "Have you already had your shower?" He said, "No, I don't think I'm going to take a shower." "You're what?" "I don't feel like taking a shower." "You mean to say that we paid all that money? I have sat in that chrome chair all day, riding backwards, so you could have a private shower, and now you're not feeling like taking a shower?" After a few loud and very unladylike words, he was convinced that a shower was to his best advantage. After a while, I realized that Joe had been in the shower for quite a while. I could hear the water running, but I also heard that lever going plunk, clunk, 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 clunk. And after a few more minutes, I heard, "Help, help." More plunk plunks, and then help, help a little louder. I got up and went closer to the private bathroom door. Help, help. I cannot get the water to shut off. I said, try pushing the lever the other way, maybe it'll go down the drain. I've tried that and it doesn't work. The water is up over my ankles and I can't open the door, and it's getting deeper all the time. You're going to have to get some help. Quick, hurry, clunk, plunk. So I said, okay, I will get help. Stand on the toilet if it gets too deep. So I threw my clothes on over my nightgown and ran out to find the conductor. Finally found him, told him our predicament, and he followed me back. We could still hear the water running in the lever, back and forth. The conductor yelled through the door, the private bathroom door. Said, sir, stand still, don't touch anything. I will turn off the water out here at the sink. Just don't touch anything. He calmly reached under the lavatory, turned the lever, and the water stopped. He told Joe to wait a few minutes until the water drained out below the level of the threshold before trying to open the door, and wished us good night. I thanked him profusely, and he left. A very clean Joe put on his pajamas and climbed into bed. Epilogue. The next morning, while we were in the dining car for breakfast, the train slowed and came to a complete stop. All the passengers looked around, wondering why, what had happened. Where were we? There was no town or station in sight. We were right in the middle of the desert. No, just the middle of nowhere. In the movies, this was where the robbers or the Indians would show up. Then a voice on the intercom said, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We are making an unscheduled stop to take on water. Last night there was a minor emergency in car number 58, which exhausted the supply. We apologize for the inconvenience. We should soon be on our way."
Well, old Clean Joe, we're glad you survived that. Where'd Beth go? You back there? Where'd she go? There you are. Okay. Ed and Goldie Coates have a little story to tell you, and then we have a special surprise, a video, but I'm going to let them tell you all about it. Ed and Goldie just moved here last year. They're from Raleigh. They live in South Village, and y'all come on up. You coming? Come on, Goldie. Come on. I want him to look at you. Come stand up here.
There's no way we can top those two stories.
No.
All right.
Just pull it out and hold it.
Yeah.
After having directed 2 Friendship Force exchanges back in the 80s, I would have loved to have had you with me. We had a situation, I'll tell this. A family of 5 from Kerry got to London, England. We were going to Devon on the bicentennial year, and we were scheduled to go to Plymouth. And we were going to spend the night. Once we arrived in London at a hotel, and we got there, and a family did not have their luggage. We inquired, and they had left it on the sidewalk in front of the airport
In Raleigh-Durham.
and in Raleigh-Durham, and they had expected the director to put his bags on the plane, I guess. But we were able to get them back since we were spending the night in London. We got the baggage shipped, and it got to us the next morning before we left by bus to go to Devon. Some of you may remember back in the 60s, 1960, 61, when Candid Camera came to Raleigh. Alan Funt was the originator of the Candid Camera program. And it actually started in 1947 as a radio program. And on various venues, he had shown specials. And in 1960, CBS picked it up as a regular program Sunday nights. You may remember 10 o'clock, it was on for 30 minutes. Well, Alan Funt did several shows that he did several skits and arrangements where you recall that he tried to catch people unaware, ordinary people. He set up hidden cameras and he'd do strange things. And generally it was hilarious. But he came to the Raleigh Preschool, which is right behind Ridgewood Shopping Center on Ridge Road, to do a program with the children describing their parents. Well, the day that they filmed, on a Friday, Goldie had gone to Winston-Salem. She was doing a survey that was before she got the teaching job at Broughton. She was doing a survey for colonial stores. And she left it up to me to dress Deborah, our 5-year-old, to go to school. And so how she was dressed was the way Alan Funt took the picture of her. So Goldie was pretty put out with the way I had dressed her that day. So what you're going to see in a few minutes is the 7-8 minute portion of that CBS program. If you recall, Alan Funt had a co-host. The first year that they were on television, CBS, Arthur Godfrey was the co-host. Now what we've got in the way of film is what Alan sent us before it was shown on the syndicated program in February of 1961. You do see Alan Funt in the picture as he interviews our Deborah. Ann Lawson, where are you, Ann?
Ann Lawson.
Ann Lawson had lived behind us in Smithfield prior to our moving to Raleigh. At that time, I was on the staff at NC State College, and Ann and Herman Lawson, our backdoor neighbors, and they had a little girl, about 5 years old, when we lived next to them, named Deborah, spelled D-E-B-R-A. We loved her and got permission to name our first daughter, Deborah. Well, the funny thing about Deborah that morning, the day of the interview, she was asked to describe her mother. Mother was pregnant. She was pregnant with our second child. And when Alan found out this, he had a field day, as you will see on this film, asking her questions to find out how much she knew about this baby that was to be born.
And it shows the two of you right at the very, very beginning.
Thank you. Yes, the first scene will be we'll see him filming us on Saturday morning. We were called by the director of the kindergarten, Charlotte Barnes, that Friday night to come to the school on Saturday morning that they were going to reveal what had happened on Friday. No one knew what had happened. None of the families were aware that it was Alan Funt and Candid Camera. Dorothy Collins had been dressed up like a clown and was entertaining the children that were not being interviewed. Deborah did not get to see Dorothy Collins. I don't know how they separated her. She told me this week that when she was carried back to the school on Friday afternoon to meet the clown, they were not there any longer. But what you see, an opening scene with no sound, is what Alan Funt taking a picture of this child's parents. You'll see Goldie first at 34 years old,
Yeah.
and myself. And then the film will have sound. You hear Alan Funt interviewing, and we'll have a few remarks at the end.
We're gonna move the furniture so everybody can see. I got it.
Now, maybe this is it.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh my goodness, look at that,
Okay.
Some people are happy to get new people in the family. How do you feel about it?
I feel good because I want somebody to play with so Mommy won't have to call up somebody every day and will come see me.
Well, this is going to be just a little bitty baby doll.
When it grows up, you know.
Sure. But if it's a boy, you won't be able to play so much.
I know.
But can't you do anything about it? I mean, you don't know. When they started to talk about having a baby, did they tell you what they wanted again, or what?
Mommy wants a boy and me and Daddy want a girl.
Oh, I see. So, and somebody's going to be happy no matter what it is.
Yeah. Somebody is.
Well, now, how will you know when the baby's ready, Deb?
Well, Mommy counts the times when she's gone to the doctor.
Does it look as though it's almost ready?
It's 7, I think. 7 months.
And when is it going to be ready? How long?
When it's 9 months.
Oh. How do you know so much about babies, Deb?
Mommy and Daddy just told me about them.
That's wonderful. It's like a miracle, isn't it? Did they tell you when you were born?
Uh-huh. I was born May the 8th in the year 1955.
You know a lot about yourself.
I know. I just learned a lot. I didn't ask Mommy and Daddy when I was born because I looked on the back of my stocking. And there I am.
What stocking?
One I hang up for Christmas.
That's good. If you were a mommy, would you spank your baby?
Not when it's real little.
How long would you wait, Deb?
I'd wait until it was about pretty near 1 year old.
Once it's 1 year old, wham, huh? Yeah.
Or when it kind of learns how.
Pardon?
When it kind of learns to know a little better.
Debbie, you're as smart as can be. Debbie, do you ever watch television?
I do, a lot, because in the afternoons sometimes there's not anything to do, and that's just exactly what I do, so I can have something to do.
I think you're about the prettiest thing I ever did see. All your baby teeth? Let's see. Those are grown-up teeth or baby?
Baby, I haven't lost one yet.
Does your mother have pretty teeth like you have? Is your daddy crazy about your mom? How can you tell?
I just can't.
Tell me how.
Well, when he gets mad and he loves her, he just goes over and loves her.
She's now 58 years old. And she never would see the film until the night before she was married. We had a party at our house after dinner, after pre-wedding, what do you call it? Rehearsal dinner. We had her in-laws at our house, and we didn't let her know it, but we had it all set up to show her in-laws this video. She was embarrassed. She still is. She doesn't like to look at it. But we've got a DVD made, and she's got a copy. In fact, this is her copy. It's somewhere stored in some storage area around here. There's our own copy.
Don't you want to see it one more time?
You know,
Yeah, let's watch it. Do it again, Bill.